going on, beautiful people out there in the world today? I'm calling attendance because, this is Name Presents Flight School. So, welcome to class. You know who it is. My name is Nathan Drizz Johnson. I am your personal marketing and branding specialist. Let's get into it. I'm super excited, super pumped. We're in the fourth part of the series. Why did your music fail in 2025 and how to fix it, right? Because we're not going to let our past dictate our future anymore. So the way we do that is we learn from those things and we grow from them, right? So we looked at a bunch of different things. You guys are going to have to go to the back to the top, of the card and look through everything we went through, but talking about marketing and branding and how to pivot, knowing when to pivot, all these great things. Today, I wanted to end our series with moving from a place of power, right? There's a lot of definitions of power, I believe. I think that one of the things I think I spoke about before is defining different things as a business, as an artist, defining the win, right? Your win might be different than another artist's win, right? Their win might be getting signed, to a multi-year record deal, but your win might be to sell a billion records. You know what I'm saying? Like you guys have two different wins, so you have to go at it differently, right? If he got the attention to a record label, then he won. You know what I'm saying? If you said you did so many records, you won. But you have to define, but don't let another man's definition of winning, define yours. You define what you want, right? What your win is. And right here, we're defining what power is, because power could be a lot of things. The Locks had a song about money, power, respect. You know what I'm saying? So maybe power is money. Maybe power is respect. Maybe power is influence, right? Maybe power is knowledge and wisdom. And that's where I want to define where we're at today with how we look at power, right? We're talking about pivoting, and pivoting. The only way you can pivot is that you have a place where you can plant your body, plant your leg, right? To find a foundation that is immovable and then move with the other leg. So you find a place of strength to move through a place of weakness, right? And that's what this whole thing is about. And specifically, that's what today is going to be about. Assignment's going to be about today. Um, so we need to make sure that we have our definitions of our wins. We have to define our losses. We have to define what power is. These things are so important, so you'll know. I always say, hey, do your SMART goals. You know what I'm saying? Because you need to know what you're aiming for and when to celebrate when you hit those things, right? Uh, Smart goals are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they're relevant in their time, right? So you need to know what it is specifically and when the time is so that you can say, boom, we hit, right? Because a lot of us, we don't know how to aim, or we aim for nothing and we're always hitting it. So we need to know, what are we defining, our win. We need to be setting up our goals with it all. A part of power, what we're talking about is the ability to control the narrative. Lots of record companies do this. You know what I'm saying? They know, like, it is in the story and how they tell the story and how they share the story, that will affect how the product is seen. And you are the product. So don't you ever leave out the house without being some type of uniqueness of your brand and your product, because you are the product. So when people see you, whether it's out or online, they are gauging whether or not they are going to buy your song, whether or not they're going to listen to your music. So you really have days when you can come out looking messed up. We all, we have those days when, what I'm saying, maybe the fro's not combed out, maybe you ain't got no makeup on, or whatever the case may be. Those days need to be very small, you know what I'm saying? Because the world is looking at you, you know what I'm saying? And if you are going to say, hey, buy my song, listen to my song, you need to be presentable. You know, you need to look like an artist. I'll never forget, I was working at Myers, and somebody came through my line, and then I think I was like really young at, artistry at the time and everything. And I had my braids, and I had a necklace or something of the case. And this guy, he comes through the line, he was like, "You do music, don't you?" And I was like, "How do you know that?" Why? Because he was reading me. You know what I'm saying? He was looking at what I was showing, you know what I'm saying, through the way I was dressed. And we're gonna get into that a little bit more. But it was a controlling of how people saw me, you know what I'm saying, by what I could control, right? I could control how I put on my pants, how I wore my shirt. And even though I was a part of another establishment, I was still controlling my narrative by how I wore my hair, what jewelry or bracelets I decided to wear, how I had either a mustache or beard. I don't think I had any of that at the time, but it's just like the way it looked, you know what I'm saying? Things I could do to control it, I did to kind of show it, because at the end of the day, you want people to run across you and say, hey, you're an artist, right? Why is that important? Because you have a song, and it opens up the door to them, for you to talk to them about, hey, take a listen to my song, right? Because we're always trying to say, listen to my music, right? And but what if you don't have to do that? The way your dress says, listen to my music. The way your mannerisms say, listen to my music. um so all of that, so it's controlling the narrative about how you present yourself, because you are the product. I'm going to go a little bit deeper in that in a minute, and we're going to talk about advertisement. But before we do, um I want to talk about the three M's. That is moment, monument, movement, right? Moment, I think I want to say it more like this. I want to say it moment, monument, movement, right? The three M's. I'm going to say it again for you guys. Write it down. Write this down. Moment, monument, movement. Why those are important. I want to speak to that by telling you this story. When I was a young artist back in the day, one of the things I loved about music, and we know this, is it can create a moment, right? Eminem says, lose yourself in it. You know what I'm saying? You have to lose yourself in the moment, right? And it's the moments that make life memorable, right? It's interesting. The time that, you went to school and you threw up. You know what I'm saying? Is the time that you were riding your bike, you know what I'm saying, and a dog came out of nowhere. The things that just kind of makes you remember stuff. Remember, it's a moment. The time in which you first DJ'd, the time that you first stepped to a mic, or the time you wrote your first song. All these are moments, and so music creates moments for people. And so I remember doing this performance at this church, and I was getting, and it was like I had a moment in which I would do rap and I would do poetry, right? Anybody knows it's two different things, right? So I would do a hardcore rap at the time, and then I would flow into this very floetic, poetic type of flow to it all, right? And I had two songs, and I would go all the places, and I would do it. And I was at this church, and I was like, there was a moment in which I was like, this works, you know, and that moment in which I felt like this worked was when I was in the poetic, doing a poetic song. And while I was doing the poetic song, I can hear, not even hear, well, I can hear and I can see people listening intently. You know what I'm saying? Like, when somebody listens like this, and then when they listens like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is something else has happened. You know what I'm saying? Something else has their attention. Yeah, and it's you, right? While I was rapping and stuff like that, people weren't paying attention. But when I got into the poetry aspect of my show, people would listen so intent, they would be so on the edge of their chairs that I had a outer body experience. When I was doing this one song called Dreamer, and it was about, believing in myself and believing in you and believing in God and believing in all types of aspects, but also paralleling it to like a dream aspect. You know what I'm saying, about how things can be crazy in a dream, but you can still see it. So very, very interesting type of song, and people were so listening to it, and I had an outer body experience because as I was singing the song, I was watching everybody look at it and everything, and then I got to a point of the song in which the music dropped, but and I said something and I pulled back. And I could see the whole room gasp. You know what I'm saying? Just like let off a big, sigh, because it was or a big uproar, because I did this one thing with how I said it at the right time, at the right period, at the right moment, and it just connected everybody in the room and everything I was saying. Everything was set right in people's hearts and stuff. They got that the connection of like what I was saying all at the end of it, with me connecting with the music, my words, and the performance. It was a whole moment, and music is caught up in those moments. Like music sets the I feel like music sets the atmosphere for those moments. On the flip side, I've been to concerts in which, what I'm saying, we dance, or I was like, man, this felt really real, or what I'm saying, it touches the soul. Because always remember, people don't buy your song because they like it, they buy it because they feel it. And if you can create those atmospheres to create those moments for people, once again, you ain't got to um, beg people to listen to your music, right? So I'm going somewhere with this. You know what I'm saying? That's great. You know what I'm saying? That is like the 4th of July. You know what I'm saying? When you have something, you see the fireworks going off, you're like, man, that's a great moment. And then boom, that's it. People said that was a great thing. They go back into their lives, you go back into your music, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Meantime, you're trying to get somebody else to listen to the song. You know what I'm saying? You're like, why isn't my career taking off? Because it was a moment. You were there, it was good, and it was gone. Next one, monument. Now, a monument is something different. Like the Grand Canyon it's a monument, right? Statues, there are monuments. We have one here in Detroit, is the Spirit of Detroit statue down. You know what I'm saying? You go by, you take some pictures. You say it's great. You know what I'm saying? This is beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And people listen to your music and they say, oh, that's great. That's beautiful. I had my boy, he went to the Grand Canyon. He was a little afraid to like look over into the, all of it, or even get to the edge of it, because he was like, I don't want the impact of it, right? When he was so he had that experience. You know what I'm saying? Once again, we just talked about that. You know what I'm saying? Like how the music, it created the atmosphere, it created a moment, and then you had one when you had the experience. The monument can create that experience. Oh, that's great. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Done. And maybe I bought into it, but not as much, right? Then you have a movement. When you look at movements can last decades, right? Movement, people can get caught up in a whole, not just a experience, not just a atmosphere, but those things created together a philosophy, right? To the way they think and move and how they do things, and how they dress, and it became more than just, what I'm saying, the experience. It became then a way of life, and then with that, you wanted to then embody what was going on in that moment so that it can last for decades, right? This is called a movement. Now, who did this? A guy named Percy Miller. Anybody out there who know who Percy Miller is, that's Master P. I was talking to my girl about it earlier today, and we were talking about No Limit. You know what I'm saying? How No Limit had a movement. Like it was a hip hop southern movement. I think he's from Louisiana, New Orleans. He was a first he was a rapper, then he created his own company called it No Limit Records, right? And then with that he came out with songs and created this whole movement, right? So like people love the song so much, but then he started to sell merch, that had camouflage. And even in the songs themselves they talked about being a soldier mentality, philosophy to it. You know what I'm saying? Even coming from the streets and stuff like that. It became more than just a song. That's what you got to be, right? They had slogans and everything. You don't want to go to war with a soldier. You know what I'm saying? We no limit soldiers. And so like they had us dressing up in fatigues and everything, and dog tag chains and stuff like that around our necks and everything. They had everything. They had water bottles, they had shirts. They were even doing dowels. They were doing dowels. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because everybody wanted to be this hardcore soldier. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, man, we going to war. We going to war every day. Y'all ain't fighting. No, we going to war. Hoo-doo-hoo! You know what I'm saying? So they were all like that, right? It was a whole thing that stemmed for a couple years. Even now, it changed the whole hip hop game. You know what I'm saying? And put the South on notice, even to the next ones that would come off of that, which would be Cash Money Records. And so, which they would say, they were talking about how, if No Limit is an army and we a navy. You know what I'm saying? So they would piggyback off of what No Limit did, and then they will step their stuff up into a higher strategy and go further and further and further. How do you turn your music into a movement? Because that's where you want it to be. You know, Master P was indie until he signed some bigger deals. You know what I'm saying? But people saw the vision, and when they got behind the movement, they got behind the philosophy. He put out, I don't know, he had like 20 artists or whatever on his label, right? Of course, gold and diamonds and platinum records, money and money and money and money, right? So you want to be a movement. You don't just want to be a moment. You don't just want to be a monument. You want to be a movement, and you want to have no limit to your success. You like that tie-in? Okay, let's kind of go back into what I was saying before. My next point to this and how to move from a place of power is understanding advertisement. We talked about branding and marketing, and but we never got to advertisement. And I think like advertisement is important because it's a part of like what I mentioned before of controlling the narrative. The definition: advertisement is a paid public or electronic notice designed to promote products, services, brands, or events to influence consumers' behavior. Key objective is including building brands, persuading purchases, right? So it's influencing pretty much how you buy into what you buy into. Um, I feel like we don't hear, the words advertisement like we used to, but we're doing it. We're seeing it every time. And there's a rule in marketing. I think it's called the rule of seven. And they were saying that you need to see your music, or not you, but people need to see your music or your product 7 times. I say 10 before they ever start thinking about buying your stuff, right? Buying it, whether it's buying it physically or just buying into you. Because in our next series, we're going to specifically talk into how to make your music a magnet for money, right? But we're going to get into that in a different one. I want you guys to stay with me with this advertisement because I believe we advertise in a couple of different ways, which is we're all marketers and advertisers when you think about it, because in the influence in everybody, you're sending a message, you're speaking a message, to to your consumers, to your new consumers, right? Potential consumers. I always like to do it in about, I feel like we do it in about 4 or 5 ways. We do it through writing, we do it through images, we do it through music, we do it through video, we do it through lives, right? And advertisement, I believe, is you're pushing your brand message, right? Your brand message, what you stand for. You're pushing it through different ways of writing, images, of music, videos, and lives. So when you are doing your music and everything, you have to ask yourself first, what is the message? What is your core message that you're trying to get out? And we're not going to go into deep into all these, but I do want to hit a couple of them. But what is that core message? Take some time and be like, okay, what do I am trying to convey in everything I do in my music, um, on my socials and my posting, in my videos, when people see me at the show? Like, what's your central message that you can give to somebody and say, this is my life core message? Right? If you heard this message, this is what I was trying to say all my life. You know what I'm saying? And that could be a lot of different things. And just think, you're taking that core message and you're putting it in those ways so that you can advertise it to people. And the people who connect with that message, you draw in, right? So you do it like I said before, you're doing it through written stuff, which nowadays when we get online and we text a post, that's a part of what that is. But it's also description. Like, so I think that's another reason why you have to make sure you put money in electronic press kits and written wise, what words describe you. When we were looking at us as a company, we're trying to pick up taglines, because those taglines are something people hear really quickly and know what you're about. So you can always have a tagline that mention who you are as a brand, who you are as an artist, who you are as a person. When I was an artist, I said passion, style, and excellence, right? I always say, when I'm helping people come up with their message or their tagline, I'm saying, I ask them, what 3 words um describes your music, because sometimes you don't have a time to tell people about your whole life story, about how you became an artist and how you put in your music, but you can say a couple of words that get people hooked into like who you are and what you're about. When I told people passion, style, and excellence, is because I wanted them to know, like, whatever I do, I'm going to do it with my whole heart. I'm going to look good. I'm going to look good when I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to be on point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to give you something that is going to be the best of it all, right? Written words, texts. Some of these can be your hashtags as well too, but it speaks about your music before people even hear it. So it's like, if you hear something at that degree, you know that what you're going to get. It's an advertisement, because advertising is basically telling you what you're going to get before you get it and why you should get it. So you should listen to me, because I'm going to give you all my whole heart. It's going to look good. So whether that's not even just my music, or my songs. That could be a shirt, you know what I'm saying? That could be a water bottle. That could be me promoting somebody's, brand of cookies. But because you know that I'm going to do that with all of my heart, and like, you can trust that them cookies are gonna be the best tasting cookies y'all have never didn't seen, never didn't taste it. You know, because you now understand. You heard the words. You have the description, the written description of the advertisement of my brand, of my music. You know what I'm saying? You hear it and it flows into any and everything else, right? Because you are now sold into the message that I keep sending. A good way of like strong advertisement with it all is to be consistent with it. So one of the consistent ways of it is images, right? That we just said. I was helping. I went over different fonts. I'll go over different fonts with my um, clients, to write out their names in different ways. And we would go over a couple of them. And I know for someone was like, this is a waste of time. It's like, no, this is a part of your brand. This is a part of your advertisement. Why? I had a conversation with a client or a past client, and we're talking about his different fonts. And he was like, I don't want that type of E because it reminds me of Eminem. Now, Eminem doesn't have the ability to copyright an E. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you're gonna have a copyright a letter. But if you look at the style of people's wordings in which you see them underneath their picture or next to their names, you start seeing it a lot. You start connecting that style with that person, that font style with that person. And even when you don't see that person next to that font style, you think of it. This is like free advertisement because it's like if that person's not there, but I see the E and I automatically think of Eminem, I might look him up. I might go to one of his shows, or I might Google, or look up one of his YouTube videos. Why? Now, it wasn't an Eminem commercial that did this. It was just a font that I saw, but his font is connected to him. Different images make you think about different artists. One of the images that I thought was really dope was Rick Ross, which is a hip hop artist, and he had what they call Maybach music, and this goes with images of a fancy car, but also he would have this sound at on every time he played a music. You know what I'm saying? It would just say Maybach music, and it was with a woman with a real attractive, sexy voice. And you're like, man, that's crazy. That told me about, hey, when you hear that, that means Rick Ross is a hip hop artist is about to perform a great song. B, I'm thinking about a woman, a very attractive woman, which is also a great imagery. You know what I'm saying? And C, it's a sound that connects that's attractive as well too. So it gives me the image of the woman, but also the sound as well too is attractive. So you have all these things of which, once again, this is advertised with it all. I'm going to say this, and then I could get into this for a minute. I didn't even hit videos or lives, but I wanted to also show this picture. I was watching as I was studying up for today's lecture. Um, I was studying this TED talk, and on there, a guy was speaking about advertisement, but he was talking about, once again, the imagery that you need to hold on and you need to understand how the world sees you, which is your brands. He put up these images of, I believe, the same professor, and he was like, one of the guy or these two, the same man dressed a little bit differently. He's like, one of the guys is a CEO over of a corporation, of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The other one is a professor, at I don't know, Wayne State, right? University, But when you look at the images themselves, they dress and how the career they're trying to sell you, the message they're trying to give you. Both of them are sending a message, and they're trying to attract different crowds to it just by the way their pictures are lined up. And I think like a guy on A, like I said before, he's your CEO, but he has the Italian suit. You know what I'm saying? He has the Rolex. He has the look, the slick back hair, or the stylish haircut. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, I believe he is CEO. But then the other guy in himself, he looks like JC Penney. Now I'm not tossing anything at JC Penney, right? You could tell like he's got a low budget outfit on, and his hairstyle in a different way. You know what I'm saying? So it's like one guy is looking more trendy, the other guy is not. They're sending messages. They're both sending messages. And so you as an artist, before well, anytime you're out, whether that's online or offline or whatever, ask yourself which pictures of these represent who you are right now. You know, are you having that look of an artist? Or are you having that look of a person who flips hamburgers. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that that's not, you know what I'm saying, to dog out the person who flips hamburgers. But if you are an artist all the time, you got to look like one. You got to look like the CEO who's over, you know what I'm saying, the $1 million company. You can't afford to look like the professor because you want to sell a song. And I'm going to buy more from the guy who's running the CEO running the $1 million company than a guy who's a teacher teaching me about ants. Make sense? They both are sending a message though. So we get that when we get that. It's important that your outer look is great, you know what I'm saying? And that the inner is good as well too. Because then you'll attract people who say, I want to listen to your record. You know what I'm saying? Now it's time for the music to do its job. If that music does not bring home, then it's false advertisement. And none of us like false advertisement, right? We all want what we see, we want to get. So it's very, very important that when you have that song, when you have that career, that when everything I tell you it does work, that you bring it home as an artist, or it's false advertisement. My next point that I wanted to look at is I call it language and listeners. Um, and it kind of goes back to teaching people how to listen to you, right? And the defiance of who you are. Okay. I'm going to leave that out there right there. The defiance of who you are. Kind of like what we were talking about before. Now, if we're going to teach people how to listen to us, we have to be covered and defined in who we are. There's now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to talk about 3 artists. All these artists have Grammys. They sold millions upon records. They have monster success. But they're not a rapper and they're not a singer. But yet they dominate all their genres, right? And they're not a band. So they're not a band, a rapper, or a singer. They're not a dancer, you know, but you buy their records because they can be very entertaining. You know, these artists is DJ Khaled, Robert Glasper, Kirk Franklin. All right, so let's start with Robert Glasper. Robert Glasper is from jazz, right? He's a big jazz artist. He put together Black Radio, right? That's Black Radio 1, 2. He's got a lot, you know what I'm saying, going with it all. But he himself is a musician, you know what I'm saying? He plays the piano. But he produces and constructs an album so great that you don't go to him to listen to him sing. You don't even go to him to listen to him rap. You go to hear the composure of the music, right? See, that's another artist. So sometimes we were like, oh, I want to be a rapper. Oh, I want to be a singer. And you can't do either one of them good. But maybe your thing is that you can compose and create and curate great albums, right? And that's what all 3 of these have in common, because my man Robert Glasper has really revolutionary or and even kept up the genre of jazz, because I think jazz is something that still gets slept on today. You know what I'm saying? But he's bringing it to a whole new generation, right? Just with the whole ability of playing the piano. You look at DJ Khaled, with him all around here screaming, "We the best!" You know what I'm saying? But is he a rapper? Nope. But did he get like top, best hip hop album? You know what I'm saying? A couple years ago, he sure did. You know what I'm saying? At the Grammys, he sure did. He's got a bunch of Grammys. You know what I'm saying? In that category of hip hop. But does he rap? He does not. Does he sing? He does not. You know what I'm saying? Then why? Why are we listening to him? Because he's not rapper Khaled. He's not singer Khaled. He is DJ Khaled. So the words Once again, the description, coming back to where it was before, are teaching and setting the expectation of who you are listening to. Can you be a rapper that should be a DJ Khaled? Are you a singer who should be a Robert Glasper? Because you can't sing to a level that you need for people to listen to you. Maybe you can hold a note, and if you curate a album good enough, and people listen to your album and say, "Hey, you're more of a curator," and then you hit them with a little bit of singing, maybe you will have more impact. Maybe you will have more attraction. Maybe people will stop and listen to you a little bit more because their expectation is not for you to be the next Beyonce. It's for you to be the next DJ Khaled. Khaled don't have to rap. He don't have to sing. But he does have to put together some really good songs. So he knows how to put the right rapper with the right beats. And I don't even think he comes up with any of the hooks. He doesn't come up with any of the songs at all. He just puts people together and curates something really well. But our expectations, once again, on the words, it is DJ Khaled. It is DJ Khaled, not singer. So I'm not going to have that expectation. So therefore, I won't lose it because I never had it in the first place. Descriptions, words of who you are as an artist go a long way. The last guy is Kirk Franklin that I wanted to bring up in this situation. He is a trailblazer, of gospel music. When people think gospel music, they think of Kirk Franklin. Most do. 9 out of 10 people, right? Because they know him more than they know a Yolanda Adams or Fred Hammond, a Donnie McClurkin, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Now, why is that the case? This man doesn't even sing. He sung a little bit when he started, but excuse me, I feel like somebody said, no, you're not a singer. You're a writer. You're a songwriter. And that's how we're going to bring you. We're going to bring you as a songwriter. So then the expectation is for people to listen to your songs, much like DJ Khaled, much like Robert Glasper, not to hear you hit a note, not to get a freestyle. Because if we came to him and Kirk was a rapper, we would be like, oh man, you really can't do it. And we'd be turned off. He could do the same songs. But if he was rapping on the same songs, Stomp went, I believe, like double platinum. If he would have rapped on it, not. If he would have took off the verse, it wouldn't have been. You know what I'm saying? Why? If he let singers sung it, it made it to where it was at. Why? Because of the description that he said, and it set the expectation. He taught people, listen to me, not like a singer, not like a rapper, but as a songwriter. Oh, so I'm going to listen to you to hear a good song, not to hear your vocals, not to hear bars, but to hear an all-around great song. If I hear an all-around great song, then I'm satisfied. I taught you how to listen. And that's why he's a trailblazer, because we know how to listen to him now. We know how to listen to DJ Khaled. We know how to listen to Rob Glasper. Rob Glasper doesn't say anything. Like either DJ Khaled and Kirk Franklin, you hear their voice. I ain't never heard Robert Glasper say anything on any of his music. Why? Because that's not his style. That's not why you come to listen to him. I have my last example, I said Kirk Franklin, but another one is Tripley. He is a Christian hip hop artist he's going from Christian hip hop into praise and worship. And if you listen to his some of his brand videos, we call it brand videos. In his brand videos, he is conveying the point of a lot of different things. He is conveying the point of being authentic in what he is now doing. He is doing something that I tell people to do, or I have my clients do all the time. the why should I listen to you factor, right? You have to, as an indie artist, you have to hit that point first because people are asking themselves like, why should I listen to you? And so he talks about in his brand video, his promotional video, he says that he tells you up front, like, this is not going to be a hip hop album. This is going to be a praise and worship. He's like, I'm creating songs, you know what I'm saying, for all of us to sing and to give glory to God to in a different aspect, right? He's trying to sell you on the fact that he's trying to set the expectation. He's telling you before, he's like, hey, it's not about being a hip hop artist on this record. It's about being a worshiper, which we all are worshiper because he knows his audience, right? He talks about that. This is another reason he put out this video before the album. He didn't just drop the album. He dropped this video first so people can be prepared and their expectations can be set to not listen to this music like a hip hop. Don't listen for a bar. Don't even listen for his vocals. Feel it. He's telling people don't listen to it, but listen to it. Listen to it as worship and praise. You know, when you're listening to worship and praise, because that is a music, that's a style of music. You're and even other music, so music that doesn't even have words. You are mainly listening to feel it, not to hear not to listen to the words. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's jazz or classical, you know, like these are genres that have music in it without, you know what I'm saying, words, you know, and you're not just listening to it, you're listening to it to feel it in your soul. You know what I'm saying? That can come through a lot of description, and his promotion video set the tone for this. You know, once again, how to listen, how to feel it out. Lastly, you are the ultimate salesperson. You are the ultimate salesperson. If you're going to come from a place of power, and I should have titled this from mistakes or from failure to victory. If you're going to move in from a place of failure to a place of power, you have to believe that you can. You don't know how many clients and artists I've ran across who like their music but don't believe in it. And I'm like, bro, if you don't believe that your music is good, I won't. If you don't believe that you can sell 1 million records, I won't. You know, if you don't believe that I should listen to it, you know what I'm saying, or stream it, you know what I'm saying, or share it, I won't. One of the greatest things about, you know, hip hop music is the confidence MC has to hit the stage with, or we won't believe in it. Belief is a big factor for a salesperson. They got to believe they've already sold it to you before they sell it to you. And that's, as independent artists, that's how we have to believe. Before we even sell it to you, we have to believe we sold it to you. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in our product. And we have to believe in our impact. All right, you guys, that is my time. I hope that helped. Blessings.